Hi everybody, welcome to the paper on early childhood care. Early years of any child is considered to be the most crucial span of life where a foundation is laid to live and to learn A to Z of everything in life. The 40 modules of this paper talks about the development of children during the first 2 years, importance and process of early childhood education and early stimulation and henceforth. Now, let us venture into the paper. Have you any time tried to reflect your early experiences that had helped you of what and who you are today? It is for sure that everyone would have gone through these kinds of nostalgic flashbacks during which some common questions strike all our minds. As you all start to understand the paper on child development, it is important to realize those common questions. Few of them are: what are the characteristics that are common and that are unique when compared to others, and what determines it? The second is the concept of the world same for you as a child, as an adolescent, and in future, will it be same as an adult? If it is not, why? Third, certain characteristics that I had during my childhood still exist and others do not. Why? How does the environment influence my development over my gene? Wondering? Yeah, I know these queries had struck your mind one time or the other, but never paid importance to it. However, these questions could be rightly answered by the field of child development, a part of a larger discipline called as human development. Human development is a branch of study that focuses on the understanding of the age-related developmental changes and developmental constancy throughout the lifespan. Child development, a part of human development, focuses on the developmental change and constancy of human beings from conception through adolescence. With this insight, let us get into the module. At the end of this module, you will be able to describe the meaning, goals, domains, and the interdisciplinary nature of child development. Get familiarized with the meaning and relationship between the concept of growth and development. Identify the principles guiding growth and development, and to know the various methods involved in studying the developmental changes of children. The field of child development and its goals. The study of child development identifies 5 major goals for an in-depth focus. They are to analyze the common as well as unique age-related development changes. The changes may be physical, behavioral, interests, and goal-related. To identify the time of change, to find out what causes these changes, to realize how these changes influence their behavior in turn, and to analyze whether the changes can or cannot be predicted and whether the changes are universal or individual. You can very well understand that the nostalgic flashbacks kindled while introducing this module are not only of scientific interest. It also talks about the practical or applied implications of life. The field of child development is an interdisciplinary approach with inputs from the field of psychology, anthropology, sociology, biology, medicine, education, home science, and social service. Hence, the study of child development is rightly marked as the melting pot of contribution from the above mentioned fields. Now let us see the various areas of research being carried out in the field of child development. The first area is pediatric health, which focuses on how to improve children's health by understanding the nuances of growth and importance of nutrition. And in the field of social science, how to treat children with behavior problems, anxieties, etc. And in the field of education, that involves how to teach children of different ages. And the most important one is in the parental perspectives, how to rear children and what is the ideal child rearing practices that could facilitate their proper development. Domains of child development. In order to address the already said 5 major goals of the field of child development and to make the vast interdisciplinary field into smaller bites for convenience and comprehensive understanding, the field of child development is categorized into 3 major domains, namely physical, psychosocial and cognitive domains. The major domains and its related subdomains are shown to you in this slide. The physical development is a domain which comprises above the changes in height, weight, body size, proportions, appearance, physiological functions, perceptions, motor abilities and overall physical health. Cognitive development is another domain which comprises above the development in intellectual capacities such as memory, attention, metacognition, language, problem solving, reasoning, imagination and creativity. The third domain is psychosocial development. It is a combination of emotional and social development. It deals with development of emotions, self-awareness and understanding, interpersonal awareness and skills, friendships and relationships, moral development and behavior. Though the development is categorized into 3 major domains for grouping the developmental changes in an orderly and convenient manner, discussing the developmental changes was found to be still not manageable. Hence, the study of child development was segmented into 5 periods based on the time period of lifespan that characterizes certain new capacities and expectations. The illustration portrays the periods of child development with the time period and their unique capacities and functions. First period is the prenatal period, starts at the time of conception and extends up to birth. Here, rapid change occurs wherein one celled zygote develops into a baby. The baby is born with capacities to adjust to life in this world. The second stage is infancy and toddlerhood. It starts at the time of birth and extends up to 2 years. Here, dramatic changes occur in body and brain, and the child also manifests wide motor, perceptual and cognitive capacities. Their language ability gets initiated and starts forming intimate ties with others. The third is early childhood, starts at the 2nd year of the baby and extends up to the 6th year. Now, the child physical and motor skills gets refined. The thinking skills also get expanded with enhanced creativity. They start to have more friends and the sense of morality manifests in them with improvement in speech skills. The next period is middle childhood, which starts at the 6th year and extends up to 11 years. The child in this period develops skills resembling as that of an adult. Logical thinking sets in with mastery of literacy skills, and even their language skills get advanced with improved comprehension. Their friendships become stronger and stronger, and also they develop a sense of morality. Then the next stage is adolescence, starts at the 11th year and ends by 18 years. It is a very important period which marks a transition period to adulthood. The sexual maturity occurs during this period and adult-sized body develops. The thinking changes from logical to abstract. They establish independence by developing their own values and goals. However, this period is marked by heightened emotionality. The next part of this module is to understand the concept and relationship between the two terms, growth and development. These two terms in general sound as synonymous terms, but in the field of education, the terms are totally different. It has to be realized that the two terms are related to one another, but not synonyms. Let us have a look into the definition of these terms. Growth. Growth is defined as a progressive, orderly and coherent increase in size of the body or body parts of a child. It is the process by which the body reaches its point of complete physical growth, that is, growth from the fertilized egg at time of conception to the fully grown body of the adult. The term development refers to the progressive series of orderly and coherent acquisition of various abilities. It is a gradual process of change and differentiation from a simple to more advanced level of complexity. Thereby, development leads to maturity. The term progressive in these definitions signifies that the changes are directional, that lead forward rather than backward. The term orderly and coherent in this definition suggests that there is a clear relationship between the changes taking place and that precede or follow. These definitions clearly indicate that the concept of growth and development is separate, but they are simultaneous and interdependent process. For example, stunting of growth may often result in deficits in other areas of development and vice versa. The definitions on growth and development seems to be complex to understand, isn't it? But you know, the following points and difference between the two terms would give you a clarity of understanding. Growth denotes structural and physical changes within the body of the individual right from conception to the adult period, whereas development refers to growth and scope of physical and mental progress a person is capable of achieving. Growth refers to increase in body size, length, height, weight, etc. Development refers to overall changes in shape, form or structure resulting in improved acquisition of skills. Growth is indicative by nature, whereas development is not indicative by nature. Growth denotes quantitative changes and development denotes qualitative changes. Growth occurs externally and stops at certain stage, but development occurs internally and never stops, and it is a continuous process. Growth quantifies physical progress, but development quantifies the other domains, namely cognitive, emotional and social. This subsection just lists the ways of measuring growth and then development. As growth is a quantitative measure, it is measured by means of height, weight, head circumference, mid-upper arm circumference and teeth eruption. Whereas development is measured only by two ways, as it is a qualitative measure. The two ways are developmental milestones and developmental task. Developmental milestones are the skills that a child should acquire within a period. Developmental task is a word coined by Havigust. He defines developmental task as tasks that should be accomplished by every individual within a span of time in their life, and the success in accomplishing those tasks would lead to success and happiness, whereas failure leads to difficulty in accomplishing further tasks and ultimately unhappiness. Now, It's time to get into the main part of the module, principles guiding growth and development. In order to understand how growth and development occurs in a child and to know the dimensions of it, it is important to be on familiar terms with the principles guiding the same. The 10 principles that underlie the process of growth and development will be explained to you one by one in detail. The first is, the process of development is both continuous and discontinuous. The process of development starts at the time of conception and proceeds either at a slower or at a rapid rate till the organism matures. Development is a non-stop process. Certain acquisition of features or skills could be seen as a sudden process and certain others develop gradually. For example, the appearance of first tooth occurs rapidly and overtly visible, whereas the speech of a child starts with the birth cry and gradually develops into cooing, babbling, one word and then two-word utterance and later complete sentences. This principle also emphasizes that the development at a certain stage serves as a facilitator for development in the other stage. The second principle is that the developmental changes are predictable as it follows certain sequence and specific pattern. In general, the development proceeds in two directions, namely head to toe and near to far. Head to toe is otherwise called cephalocaudal pattern of growth, wherein the development starts from the upper portion of the body and proceeds towards the lower ends. For example, the structure and function of head is complete before the trunk region and the last one to develop is the leg area. This is the reason why a child learns to sit before he or she walks. The next sequence is near to far, otherwise called proximodistal growth, where the development proceeds from the center of the body towards the extremities on both the sides, wherein the trunk region is fairly well developed and proceed towards the arm and then hands and then fingers. For example, all children first learn to sit before starting to crawl or stand and could draw a circle before a square. The third principle is development proceeds from general to specific responses. While closely observing a child's activity, you could realize that general activity precedes specific activity. In other words, during the early days, the response of a baby is general in nature and slowly gets replaced with specific response. This pattern could be observed in all domains of development. For example, in the emotional domain, the emotion of a newborn is observed to be only a diffused form of excitement that gets differentiated into various specific emotional expressions day by day. It is this principle that explains the fact that every child's uncoordinated and random movements or responses get replaced by well coordinated and specific movement of response. The fourth principle is development involves change. As the definition of development itself states that it is a process of progressive series of orderly coherent changes, development is not a static process. It involves progressive series of change from the time of conception to the entire lifespan. Growth refers to quantitative and indicative changes, whereas development involves qualitative and non-indicative changes. In total, these changes happen in body size, proportion, disappearance of old features, acquisition of new features and also the capabilities or the abilities. The fifth principle is development is a product of interaction of the heredity and environment. Development occurs as an interactive effect of both the genetic and the environmental factors. The question of which factor influences the most is still unanswered, and researchers had proved that both the factors influence the process of growth and development equally and work hand in hand. The sixth principle is that the development involves considerable individual differences. Every child is said to be unique in the rate of developmental changes. though the pattern of development is the same for all children. The individual differences are owed to the unique combination of environmental and genetic factors of that particular child. Hence, it is not ideal to expect any two children of same age to develop or behave in a similar way. For example, though the developmental milestone states that, on an average, children could speak 3-word sentences by 3 years of age, some children could master it even before, while some other with great difficulty could accomplish this milestone only during their 4th birthday. The 7th principle is, development occurs as an interactive product of maturation and learning. Maturation is defined as the ability to unfold skills that are potentially present in the individual and that come from the individual's genetic endowment. Maturation is seen as phylogenetic functions and ontogenetic functions. Phylogenetic functions are skills common to race, for example, crawling, sitting, walking, etc. Ontogenetic functions are skills that are specific to individual, for example, proficiency in swimming, riding bicycle, writing, etc. Havighurst has referred to this maturational readiness as a teachable moment, as the child cannot learn until they are developmentally ready. Learning is development that comes from exercise and effort, but competence may be acquired by hereditary resources. Learning takes place due to imitation, training, or experiences and later gets manifested itself in behavior. Hence, it should be understood that maturation is only a raw potential which has to be fed with the learning experience to develop to its fullest form. For example, every child has got an innate potential to write, which gets unfolded at a point of time. But identifying his readiness for the skill and providing learning opportunities is very important to develop the skill of writing in him without being stressed. The 8th principle is, early development is more critical than later development. The famous saying, "The childhood shows the man as morning shows the day," explains this principle of development. Any maladjustment in a person could be traced to unfavorable child experiences. Appropriate childhood family structure, enhanced environmental stimulation, well-balanced emotional state, ideal child rearing practices are some of the conditions that affect early development positively and thereby better adulthood. The 9th principle is, developmental changes are multidimensional. In other words, the process of development is said to be interrelated within the 3 major domains, namely physical, psychosocial and cognitive. All domains may develop at the same pace or at different rates, but influence each other. For example, the physical development is found to be rapid at one stage of life than in the other, whereas in the other domains pattern of changes is just the opposite, but do influence the overall development. The 10th last principle is that development is highly plastic or flexible. Development is said to be flexible because of the verity that a particular child who underwent a slow pace of development in a particular area might show tremendous improvement in that area when provided the right exposure and enriched environment. The next part of the module deals with methods of studying children. To answer the question of how do children change in due course of time in a scientific manner, the researchers in the field of child development started with a research question or hypothesis as any other research. Hypothesis is a research statement or question that would be tested by reflecting on what the researcher wants to find out. Consider the following example in understanding this part of the module. The question is, how do sibling relationships change among children in their 6th, 12th and in their 18th years. The first step in doing this research will be to determine the type of study that tells us the most about the changes that happen in their sibling relationship. While trying to identify the methods, a researcher comes out with two possible approaches. The first possible approach is that, do I want to observe the changes over an extended period within a single population of children in their 6th year and then in their 12th year and later in their 18th year? Or do I want to compare the sibling relationship among different population of children in their 6th, 12th and 18th year at the same point of time? The first approach is referred to as a longitudinal method of studying children, and the second one is called the cross-sectional method. Longitudinal study is defined as a research design wherein one single population is studied over and over again at different ages or periods of their lifespan. Cross-sectional study is a research design wherein various group of subjects at different ages or periods of their lifespan are studied at the same point of time. Now, let us know about the benefits and the purpose of each of these approaches. The first longitudinal design is an observational study where the researchers are in continuous process of observing the same subject over a relatively longer duration. To return to the example specified as earlier, the study would absorb the needed subject or subjects in their 6th year and then again when they attain their 12th year and consequently during their 18th year. So, the study would take about 12 years to complete. Though it is a time consuming approach, there are certain benefits as given. The first benefit is the possibility of detecting development or its related changes at the individual level over the span of research is more. And as a subject is studied repeatedly at different age, the sequence of events could be easily traced. Third, this approach is more likely to suggest cause and effect relationship as it accounts for the development of sibling relationship from 6th year to 18th year and changes that occur over time. However, there are certain pitfalls of this approach. These type of studies could be conducted only with a small group of subjects. So, generalization to larger population becomes difficult. The subject's dropout rate will be high in these type of designs and hence the data prediction becomes complex. Also, by continuously studying a particular subject for a longer time, it might influence a subject to react wisely to the testing situations and results in contamination of results. The major pitfall is cohort effect. Cohort effect occurs due to the cultural and historical changes on the consistency of findings. That is, while studying a group of children born at a particular period may not have the pattern of development when compared with children born in another period. Hence, in order to alleviate the pitfalls of longitudinal design, researchers develop the cross-sectional design. As longitudinal approach, the cross-sectional design of studying children is also carried out by observing the subject. To make it simpler, the researcher records the information without manipulating the environment. The major success of this type of study is because of its scope of comparing different population groups at a single point of time. Hence, the time span for this type of study is relatively short. Moreover, the factors that influence the changes over time, both historical and sociological, gets minimized. However, the cause and effect relationship could not be traced by this approach because the subject sharing the same cultural historical experiences but at different periods of lifespan would have caused the changes in spite of their age induced changes. Also, this type of study covers a wide range of lifespan, also faces the potential difficulty of cohort effect as in the longitudinal approach. In order to overcome the potential difficulties of both these designs explained, child development researchers tried to improve the developmental designs and arrived at a new design called longitudinal sequential design. This design is a combination of both longitudinal and cross-sectional approach. Longitudinal sequential design is a research design wherein a group of subjects born at different times are followed over a short span of time. Hence, the disadvantage of longer duration of longitudinal study could be conquered, and moreover, the cohort effect of both the designs is also minimized as careful comparative analysis of historical and cultural changes could be absorbed. Turning to the same example of sibling relationships provided, the answer to both the questions could be answered by one design called longitudinal sequential design. Look at this illustration wherein 3 children in their 6th, 12th and 18th year were studied in the year 2006 with reference to their nature of sibling relationship, and in the same way another 3 children during the year 2010. The green lines indicate the comparison of children born at different periods and thereby accounting to the longitudinal design. The blue line shows a cross-sectional comparison. Say for example, a child of 6 years is studied in 2 different periods, 2006 and 2010. The pitfall of both the longitudinal and cross-sectional design is a cohort effect which gets resolved in this new design. The red lines compares a 6-year-old child studied in the year 2006 with a 12-year child studied in the year 2010, and at the same time 12-year-old in 2006 with 18-year-old in 2010. After looking into the benefits and pitfalls of the research designs in child development, and after identifying a particular relevant approach to conduct the study, what is next? The next step is to identify how to gather data or information from the subjects of interest. Some major methods of data collection are through observation, case studies, questionnaires and experimentation. Observation, as the term indicates, the information is gathered by mere observation of the subject. This method is again divided into 2, namely naturalistic and structured observation. Naturalistic observation refers to observation of subjects in real world setting. In other words, observation happens in natural setting. Structured observation is a method wherein the researcher observes the subject in a laboratory setting by controlling the environmental factors. The second method is case studies. It is a method of collecting data wherein a particular subject of interest is studied comprehensively to obtain a great deal of information. They are often used in clinical researches as their approach cannot be generalized to a larger population. The third method of data collection is through questionnaire. It is often considered to be an easy, quick way to get more information. However, the individuality of responses is minimized. Also, structured interview could be posed for subjects who cannot fill up the questionnaires by themselves. The fourth is experimentation. It is referred to as a scientific method as it involves the manipulation and measurement of various variables. Towards the end of this module, I am sure each one of you would have learned the concept of growth and development, its domains, the periods of lifespan and the principle guiding it. By learning these principles, it could be easily realized that the development is a systematic, orderly, progressive, multidimensional, multi-directional, plastic and contextual. Also, the explanation on the methods of studying children would have given a deeper insight of how to analyze the development of children under various domains and thereby analyze the pros and cons by finally selecting an appropriate method of study and suitable method of data collection. With this information, it's Vidya-mitra signing off. Meet you all again with another topic. Bye.